but I'm ready.
Are you ready to record, or are you ready for the impending New World Order?
Oh, I'm ready for the impending New World Order.
Both
yeah, but I'm also ready to record. Yeah.
If it's not a good look, why do I wear it so well? Pardon me, I mistook your pretty face for someone else, but you just have to do, because you see it's getting late. It's a late point of view that keeps the guilt from off my plate.
My gosh, it's been so long since I did anything real. I forgot how to do an intro. Welcome to Not Your Final Girl, everyone. We're three women who love horror, and we're here to talk about it, and we're here to bring everybody to Jesus in a metaphorical way. If Jesus was horror movies that you thought about in an analytical intersection way. If that was what Jesus was, that's what we would be talking about on this podcast, because that's what we talk about. Yes. I'm here with Gabby and Ariel. I'm here with Gabby physically and with Ariel as a disembodied voice. Yeah, in spirit.
In the virtual realm.
Yeah, and through Gabby's hot boy computer that is whirring away.
Hot boy computer makes it sound like it has abs.
It does, which I kind of like, actually. But yeah, today we're talking about found footage movies and the found footage subgenre, and a few examples that are pretty diverse, I feel like. I know that we're talking about the Blair Witch Project, and we're talking about the Last Exorcism and Home Movie, and I'll bet some other ones will come up, but those are the three that we specifically watched for today. I know Ariel has a lot of yelling to do about the Blair Witch Project.
Mm-hmm. Good yelling, positive yelling.
Yes, much positive yelling about the Blair Witch Project, a movie that I remember the craze from when it came out, but I didn't see it until a long time later.
That's the same kind of for me.
Me too.
I didn't watch it until, oh God, I can't even say when I watched it, but I remember the hype. I remember people were selling the little stick figure guys.
Yeah, I remember the little stick figure guys.
I don't remember the hype at all, so it was very weird for me. When did that come out again? Was that 99?
1999. Mm-hmm.
I was 9 and, just living in my little bubble and didn't know about it until much later. And then I actually didn't watch it until 5 years ago, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah, it's about the same for me. I want to say I was 9 also when it came out. I liked scary movies, but it wasn't one that was going to be plausible to see in the theater. My parents did see it in the theater, and I remember they hated it. If they didn't like it, there was no way they were going to have me watch it, because they didn't want to watch it. And right. I didn't go to R-rated movies as a 9-year-old.
You weren't that hardcore.
No, I didn't start going to the theater to see R-rated movies till I was 13.
So for anybody that hasn't watched it, but I'm sure people know what it is, even just kind of mentioning it. 3 people go into the woods in search of this urban legend in this town. What's the name of the town again? It's
Burkittsville?
Burkittsville. Yeah, which they say was formerly known as Blair. Blair or Blairsville? I don't know. Blairsville. They don't specify. So I'm just going to assume it's Blairsville. But
I'm going to find out if there is a Blairsville.
They go in search of this witch. And what's really neat is they interview the town folk to see what the urban legend is and kind of what they've heard about it. But it's these 3 friends, and it begins with them just kind of going over the camera equipment and getting ready for their trek into the middle of the woods to see what they can find. That's about it.
Yeah, Blair Witch, man. I was one of those people that I don't want to ever be again, who listened to negative opinions of a piece of media and let that stop me from watching long before I watched it. And I regret it. I mean, who cares? It's a movie, right? But I do think it was indicative of me as a young fan. I just wanted to listen to what was the cool thing. And, after the Blair Witch came out, it was almost that for an inevitable kickback reaction of because you know, it was such a phenomenon, I think there was that necessary negative, you know, the naysayers came out of the woodwork and hated it. And so I just listened to that and I didn't watch it. And then I was like,
inevitable backlash against it.
yeah, and I fucking love it. I was like, this won't hold up, but I was like, just finally watch it. Like, you love found footage. You even love terrible found footage. So just watch it. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is perfect. And knowing the history makes it that much better. I'm furious I wasn't like 20 when this movie came out, because this would have been my shit. Like, everyone thinking it was real. Are you kidding?
That's such a point in, like, I feel like cinematic history where you can't recreate it, unfortunately. So being the age that we are, we just kind of like missed it, and it's kind of sad. Like, I'm kind of sad I wasn't old enough to buy into the hype and go to the movie theater with like you guys and like go watch.
Well, and there's no other, you know, the internet was right where it needed to be for this to happen. I mean, but it's so funny because it's almost mythical. Like, I feel similarly. So I think this one's actually a lot more rooted in fact, as far as what like some people did actually think this was real, but like, it kind of reminds me of, actually Val brought this up with me today because we were talking, and she brought up Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, the radio broadcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like it's a theatrical event. Like, that doesn't happen very often. Not being allowed to come into showings of Psycho late.
Yeah, and with the Orson Welles thing, everyone remembers about War of the Worlds that, you know, people were losing their shit. They thought aliens were really coming down and invading, but that's what I always remembered. But then when I looked it up more recently and kind of got into it, the numbers don't support that. Like, there's a lot, it's pretty critically divided as far as, at least with that radio show, that some people are like, no, that didn't happen. There wasn't mass hysteria. And so with Blair Witch, like, I know there were people that thought it was real, but I don't know how many, right? So I'm not sure, but it's still cool that anyone thought it. Like, the website's still up. You can still, right? You can still go to the Blair Witch website.
They launched a marketing campaign with the intention, at least, of leaving it very ambiguous whether it was real. And I'm thinking now that, like, that would be a really hard thing to pull off now.
Yes.
I think it's much less innocent time as far as
everyone's cynical. We all got duped by the Blair Witch, and now no one will believe anything. Just kidding. There's so many lies on the internet right now. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, they apparently either got duped or maybe mythically got duped by War of the Worlds. So
yeah. Do you guys know the soundtrack for this? I was looking up the soundtrack for this movie, and I guess it was billed as the mixtape, like, that they had put together in the car.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So, like, even down to the soundtrack, like, they very much committed to the fantasy that it was real people.
That's a lot of follow through. I like that because it was such a low budget film. Like, that's kind of all they had, right? Was the follow through and the 3 actors and.
Well, and yeah, Candace, you're totally right. Like, having the whole, like, the theatrical experience, like Psycho. Well, all those old movies where, like, The Tingler, they would zap you in the theater. You're right. It's about, this isn't just a movie. How can we make this more than just a movie? Make it an experience that lasts beyond you sitting in the theater.
Right. Yeah. So I think that maybe people were just mad that they, you know, kind of fell into the marketing hook there, and they were just mad about it, like, later on.
I truly don't know. I mean, I don't want to begrudge anyone a negative opinion, because I like to spout them off a lot on our podcast, so I think it's fine, but I just know, like, I shouldn't have listened. I should have watched much earlier and formed my own opinion on it.
And, I mean, same. I watched it at some point, and more recently, it was like just a couple months ago, and I was really, what I'm most impressed by as a person who, likes found footage stuff, the performances are just really good. That's what carries the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
They picked 3 unknown actors, one of whom they primarily cast because he could work the camera, because they were like their own film crew. They literally just they found these 3 people who could improv really well, and they sent them into the woods and just messed with them for days, which is why it's a really cool, authentic performance. But yeah, I think that really kind of carries it through.
Also, the interaction between the actors seems really real. Like, the way they play around with each other and, like, they cuss at each other, and just those interactions seem really genuine. So you're like, yeah, this is 3 friends that are into occult stuff. They're into urban legends. They want to go out and find this witch or this thing.
Yeah.
Well, and it also feels, you know, I know we touched on Blair Witch, and then we were like, let's just put it away for found footage with talking about folk horror. But it really does feel pretty steeped in folk horror too, because you literally have, you know, the legend of the Blair Witch and how they interact. Like the thing with this is, I know that people have different theories about what happened in Blair Witch, but the takeaway for me is like, that's a fucked up area. Like that woods is fucked up, you know, like there's no, even if there is a witch, something's wrong there. Like it's almost like a Stephen King approach, right? Where it's like that area is evil, which I really appreciated because there's no point really in answering it, you know?
Yeah, totally. It shifts from being primarily about sort of the drama of them being lost in the woods, which was something that I like didn't really consider that the first time I watched it so much as this last time. It's just scary to be lost alone in the woods. Between my first viewing and my second viewing, I started reading about like missing persons cases a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of just being lost in the woods is terrifying when you're just going to die out there.
Oh yeah.
Actually surprisingly easy to do. Knowing that it's actually kind of easy to get super lost in the woods made that like a little more immersive, I think, because like at some point you can just kind of see their psychology shift from it's fine, like we're like out of our way, she doesn't know where we are, and like they're kind of annoyed. At some point it shifts into panic where they're like, wait, we don't know where we are and we're gonna die.
Yeah, it takes away that common problem in horror films of, well, why don't you just leave? It's like, I literally cannot. I'm trapped in the woods. Heather mentions several times, she's like, we're in America. Like, we can't get lost in America. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, there's big stretches of wilderness in America.
Yeah, very common mistake.
Yeah. No, that's not how it works. And plus, this woods literally wants you to die. So good luck.
Now it's like, yeah, there's definitely some points where like you can't tell which one it is. You know, they're like, we were just here. And they're like so upset because they're like, no, we've been walking in a straight line. But people do that sometimes when you're lost and you think you're going in a straight line, you're actually going in a circle. You might not even need a witch to do that to you.
Exactly. You're just losing your mind in the middle of the woods. Yeah, it plays with you, I guess, in multiple ways, which is really cool. It's also, I don't know, I couldn't find anything that definitively linked it to this, but I've seen speculation on it. There's a really great short story, like a horror short story called Sticks by this guy Carl Wagner. And it's like the weird lattice things that they keep finding, like super reminded me. Like I was reminded a lot of this short story, and I'm really curious if they had read it at all before because it's about a guy who goes into the middle of the woods and finds a bunch of weird shit like that, like just hanging out. And eventually there's, you know, like other Cthulhu evil shit. I was curious whether or not like that was like for sure a link, but it feels like it draws from past horror stuff too.
And it's also just something they keep finding that stuff in like the morning, so it kind of like builds this kind of dread where you're like, oh no, it's gonna be worse next time. Like to the point where they're like,
it builds on itself.
Yeah, to the point where they're like finding like severed fingers and shit, which is fun. And like the folk magic kind of aspect to it is like very simple and creepy.
Well, and I think like found footage, I don't think this film could have, I mean, I guess it could have been done another way, right? But it wouldn't have been as effective without found footage, and it wouldn't have maybe been possible, right? Like, because it would have been a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So I like that about found footage, that it can make stuff possible, and it can also, it forces, or it seems to force the filmmaker to leave like an element of mystery, you know? So sometimes with horror, it's really hard to stick the landing if you're going to show what's going on, like definitively, or explain definitively what's going on. And so with found footage, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, like, I know that they were like at some point planning on showing like the Blair Witch or whatever, like the actual like scary thing that whatever has been out there. It's just like because they actually roused these people from sleep in the middle of the night and told them to run, they just didn't get it. Like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know, but it's really funny.
Yeah, it's like whatever scene she's like running and being like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, they didn't show anything. Like,
Yeah, no,
what
nothing.
what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
But I really like the dynamic too between the characters. Like there's the character, like when they're like, hey, we're fucking lost, and because I think it was Josh or Michael, one of the guys.
I can't remember which one. They both have such generic white boy names.
Yeah. One of them kicks the map into the fucking river.
Oh, he says he does. He says he did.
Josh. Yeah. It's that because I think Mike is Heather's friend. I think it's Josh.
Yeah.
But they do that, and then Heather's beyond pissed at him, and then they just start losing it just slowly because they're lost, and they get to the wrong part in the river, and I don't know. It felt like that's what would happen if 3 people went out into the woods and got lost.
Yeah, totally. And I know this is why my parents didn't like it, because they were like, it wasn't a scary movie. It was just a movie with 3 people arguing over a map for like 3/4 of the movie.
And that's true.
I was like, yeah, that's true, but I don't know. I just appreciate subtlety, I guess.
I just know, like, the night, so when I texted Candace the night that I rewatched Blair Witch like a couple nights ago, and we had watched back to back Last Exorcism, Blair Witch, and then I decided to show Brian Marble Hornets. So like all of that, like all this found footage and like all of its nebulous, like what really happened, you don't see everything, freaked me out. I was feeling unsettled trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, Marble Hornets, which I feel like we decided kind of to like not feature Marble Hornets as like prominently in this episode, because we could do an entire other episode all about Slender Man someday.
Yeah, just like internet horror in general. Like,
yeah, that's true. And that's like one for me that like I had many times where I was scared right before going to bed because of just looking at some shit on the internet.
Yeah.
And at least one of those things has been Marble Hornets, which is like a found footage YouTube documentary basically on Slender Man. I said documentary. It's not real. It's a found footage like horror documentary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very low quality.
Yes.
There's been kind of different facets to like horror and the internet, because I feel like Blair Witch was the first to kind of take advantage of it, but in later years there was like creepypasta and stuff that really like exploded and kind of took advantage of the power of the internet and like how things circulate. And I don't know if either of those things can be recreated now, but they definitely are a part of both horror like history and like horror history involving the web.
Yeah. And that is like, I feel like the most effective creepypasta tends to be the kind that uses its own format for horror, like, that it brings you into the story kind of. And yeah, there's definitely like some source of horror that's just stumbling on some creepy website.
Old school blog posts or like a chat exchange on a website. Yeah. So I guess that's kind of found footagey in its own way, huh?
Yeah, totally.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole... We'll talk about this more someday. If you know good creepypastas, by the way, listeners, if you've got favorite creepypastas or like just like generally creepy shit on the internet that you want to share, like please send it to us or nyfgpod@gmail.
Yes, please.
Social media. Just tell us what kind of creepypastas you like the best, because we'll I'm always down to read more.
Blow your house on down. Tell me that you've had enough of burning to the ground.
Yeah, we do have to fight about home movie. It's so true.
It's hard for us to fight about home movie, and I can't wait.
Home movie's about a really annoying dad.
Yeah, a really fucking like just a very frustrating youth pastor dad. The worst.
He's a very annoying youth pastor dad, and then his wife, she's a psychologist, and then their kids are fucking evil, and that's kind of it. Yeah, that's it. That's the movie. But they record snippets of their lives with their home camera, and it just kind of slowly shows the kids doing more and more fucked up things and then it kind of comes to a crescendo at the end, like
Yeah.
most movies do.
Descends into madness.
Yeah.
I'll start with pro because that's where I'm at. I just love the way that it immediately throws you really off balance. The first scene just intolerably creepy to me, like out of context. So it starts like the very first shot is just roadkill and like heavy breathing, like somebody's just has the camera and is filming roadkill like they might if they were a edgy goth child. But then it cuts to like them doing like Halloween, and like the kids are wearing these incredibly creepy masks, and it's just like this low res shot of like a just suburban house, generic kitchen, but they're all like she's all like Bride Frankensteined out, and he's like, you know, whatever, they're like, and they're singing happy birthday for some reason because the kids are like, their birthday is on Halloween, which okay. It just is like so disorienting, and it totally brings up this creepy like, oh no, I found something I'm not supposed to be looking at kind of feelings. Yeah, and I like immediately was like, fuck yeah, I'm so into this movie. I don't know, just like the interactions between the parents. Gabby's like, yeah, this annoying youth pastor dad, and like totally the couple is so already super unnerving to me because they're just constantly like full of contempt in how they talk to each other.
Yeah.
It feels like a really like, it just feels like a very dysfunctional home immediately, and that already just builds this dread. And then once the kids start doing fucked up stuff, you're like, oh, of course though, because they're in this house.
I really like how it plays with kind of like nature and nurture too, because there's a point where they find bite marks on the kids, and the psychologist thinks that the dad did it because he was abused as a child. But then it turns out that the kids are biting each other because they're little fucking psychopaths. Yeah. And I liked that it played around with that. But I really dislike the dad. I really dislike the dad.
Honestly, I find him way more disturbing than the kids. It's like, I don't know, he's just all like fucking weird, like dead-eyed. There's a scene when he goes into the bathroom where his wife is showering and like tries to like stick the camera in the shower, and she's all like it's this really fraught like exchange where she's like still acting playful, but you can tell she's like, I fucking hate you. Yeah. It's unpleasant. For sure, but it's a very unpleasant movie. I don't know. I like it. I like it. It's unpleasant, and I like that. There's slowly escalating animal abuse that I don't normally like. A lot of the time I find that kind of cheap. The way they do it actually makes a lot of sense. It's really unfortunate to watch it and feel bad the whole time, but I just thought it did a good job. And you were saying it's like nature versus nurture. I was totally thinking like, oh yeah, like he's the church and she's the state. It's like, yeah, also he's nature and she's nurture.
Yeah. And then like she puts them on meds and they're better, but then
she's also a psychologist who's treating her own children, which is
really problematic.
Yeah, and like filming herself talking about it, and where you're like, are you actually a psychiatrist or are you just a fucking crazy person? Yeah. Some parts of it are not meant to be taken literally, for sure. Like the fact that she's apparently a practicing psychologist who has her own children as patients, but you know.
And like she talks about it a lot. She's like, I treated my own kids, and it's weird. Like you shouldn't do that. I think there's laws against that.
Yeah. Also, they're just continuing to be really fucked up, and she's like, I'm fixing them.
Yeah. The children in the movie, the brother and sister, are actually brother and sister in real life. And it starts out by, like, the first thing that they do kind of wrong is the son starts throwing rocks at his dad while they're playing baseball. And I was like, okay, it's that kind of movie. It's a shitty kid movie. Cool. Yeah. I like shitty kid movies because that scares the hell out of me. They put a frog in a vice.
Yeah. There's, like, a scene where the dad and the son are, like, tying knots, but also it just looks a lot like they're tying nooses together. Yeah. And then just in the background, the little girl's just putting a frog in a vice.
Yeah. And then they fuck with more frogs.
They, like, torture their friend. Yeah.
They do torture their friend.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So
Candace liked it. Ariel did not like it.
Ariel sent me her boyfriend Brian's whole critique, like, recorded, because like after they watched it, because he had to talk about it.
We'll put that in the end. I'll
keep listening for Brian.
Keep Brian's rant. I feel like I literally could let your litany of wild things that happened in this movie stand as my argument for why it sucked, but I can also talk about why I hated it. first of all, like, to be that asshole, because I will be that asshole for a second. Found footage, one of the problems with the genre that can happen is it's supposed to be found, right?
Mhm.
So allegedly, I should be able to pick up the camcorder, right, or pick up the tape, and I watch something that I found, and it is not edited. And obviously that's a conceit, and Blair Witch, they edited that shit, obviously, but at least it runs through as if it's just from the camcorder. And with this film, multiple times there are parts where it cuts. I don't even know what it's called because I'm not a film person, but there are parts where there's like voiceover narration with an edited piece of film. So like it happens multiple times, like took me out. And I think it wouldn't have if I actually liked the movie. Like I talked about this with you guys a little. I think if I really liked the movie, I would have been more generous. I found it a lot because because I was annoyed at the film, and mostly there's so many reasons. Like for me, it was funny. This film was unbelievable to the point of being comedic. The kids don't speak the whole time, except that like when they're talking in their weird fucking language, and then when they also towards the end, the false ending where it seems like they're fine, before they fully shit hits the fan. So they don't talk. I don't know if the filmmakers thought they were being clever, or they thought it was creepy, or the actors they thought couldn't act and they didn't believe they could give them direction. But whichever it was, they're just literal bumps on a log. And the parents, I don't know if it was supposed to land another way, but just like the parents constantly interacting with them almost as like the straight man to these like psychotic children was pretty bad. So for me, it was like laughing at implausibility, which made me look for more implausibility. Like there's that scene towards the end, when they almost kill their friend. Yeah. And remember when they go up to the kid's room, the wise men from the lawn nativity scene are in the room?
Yeah.
I want to see the B cut. Like I want to see the deleted scene where those motherfuckers are going to the garage, lugging that shit up the stairs as their parents are just fucking unaware and oblivious. So there's just things like that where they're like, this will be creepy, this will be weird. And I'm like, okay, if the parents going into the room, they're gonna know that it's the nativity scene. Like you didn't fool the parents. Like this Ferris Bueller shit isn't fooling anyone. It all felt so staged. None of it felt like something they would film, So it was, I guess you could believe the dad is fucking weird. Yes, the dad is a fucking weirdo. So I guess you could believe that the dad is that weird that he really would try to do this.
Okay, well, because like recording things like them praying over their Thanksgiving dinner is
that seems
weird.
Actually, that is one of the more like unrealistic ones. Now that I think about it, because Brian definitely brought up that he like the dad like filmed himself drinking in the dark or whatever. Which I actually feel like filming like the family prayer is weirder than recording yourself drinking, because maybe he was talking to the camera or something. Yeah, like that's also part of a like narrated sequence that has voiceover over it, I think. You know what, I normally wouldn't care about that very much, except it does do like the conceit where it like has a menu where you like you can divide up your footage on a camcorder. Mm-hmm. And unless they were trying to do that as like oh, it's on the internet because somebody found this camera and edited the footage. I'll buy sometimes that somebody edited footage that was like, whatever footage was found, you could edit it. That makes sense.
Well, that's what
they like kind of ruined that for themselves. So
you brought up when we were talking about it earlier. I looked up the distribution of this film because I was like, what if they just like dropped this shit on YouTube or something? Or what if it was part of a whole like they had a creepypasta campaign with the film, right? Doing what Blair Witch had done, which is supplement it with a larger story. Because I was like, if that happened, I would feel differently about this film. I still don't think it's a good film because I think Blair Witch stands alone without its marketing campaign, but I still would have felt differently about it.
Blair Witch like really committed to their production, which is rad. Like I do forgive found footage a lot for like not being as hardcore role play in their filming. Yeah, like that one, the editing is definitely really inconsistent. But like the first few scenes kind of seem pretty authentically things that people might film, to the point where like, yeah, they kind of get a little long. Like the first part of the movie where they're like not editing the shit feels kind of long, and like it's kind of like a slog because the shots are so long. And so I kind of appreciate that it starts being more tightly edited later on, even though it does make it inconsistent, because it just makes it move along a little faster at the end. And they had already hooked me also. That's the thing. Creepy suburban horror. The suburban families are already really creepy to me, and that one like hit all
your boxes. It checked all your boxes.
That hit all my like creep factor buttons.
It wasn't like suburban enough for me because it felt like they're in this weird backwoods. We see no one else practically in the rest of the film.
They kind of are out there. They're supposed to be like out isolated, right? Because she says that in the beginning, that they like moved to the middle of nowhere or something.
So I felt like a missed opportunity that they had moved to the middle of nowhere and like we didn't know why. And it would have been cool to realize that they moved to the middle of nowhere because their kids were fucked up. Like they already knew, you know?
I guess that's true. Yeah. They're in like pretty consistent denial about how fucked up their kids are. And like when they start doing like kind of more fucked up stuff, the mother just medicates them more. The father tries to do an exorcism at one point.
Oh, he does try to do an exorcism. I forgot.
Yeah.
Which I kind of dug. Like, yeah, just watching these people abuse their kids. Cool.
Yeah, it was weird because it walked the line of, I guess you said nature versus nurture, but then it just felt like it at the end was like, fuck you, it's neither. These kids fucking suck and they're psychopaths. This is a shitty, I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle.
Yeah, the ending is really weak, I will say. I don't mind that they don't have the kids talk because I hate child actors almost always, and especially in horror movies. I feel like you gotta work around your actors' limitations.
But I feel like if
the other two performances are pretty good, yeah, I don't need the kids to talk. I feel like that can only hurt.
But if you can't direct your kids, then don't direct a film with kids in it.
I mean, that's fair, but like, I don't know. I think that might be kind of a tough acting job for like any kid. You might be limited. When you write a script, you don't think like, can I cast kids? I don't know, you just have to work with what you have.
Yeah.
Though I do agree people shouldn't include children in scripts. I don't think children should be in movies.
Oh my God.
It's child labor. They should have adults like CGI'd to look like children.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
Stop. Okay, also listen.
The age of 18 belongs in a movie.
Have you been to the home movie Wikipedia page?
No.
Yes?
Okay, I have been, and I'm like, I am pretty positive, guys, that they edited their own Wikipedia page, because if you look at the reception tab, they only list one positive review, probably the only positive review that exists, and that's all.
Oh, I just gave it a positive review. They can cite me.
But
definitely noticed that. I would fucking edit my own Wikipedia page.
Let's make our own Wikipedia page for the podcast. So the tagline for the movie is "I dare you to watch until our movie is done."
Like the kids made it, huh?
Yeah.
The kids did. I guess the kids do make the movie, huh?
Yeah.
That's like it. Maybe that's why it's edited. They shopped this to IFC.
Yeah, maybe.
So Candace liked it, Ariel didn't like it, and No, I didn't like it. I'm glad I watched it. I liked the concept of it. I really disliked the dad, both as the character and the actor. I thought he was really hokey, like when he brings them ice cream, even though his son.
That scene was so fucking creepy. The melting pink ice cream is
like
a gross prop, and I
yeah.
don't like it. I don't know. Everything about this movie made me very unsettled and uncomfortable in ways that I'm like into. So if you love being uncomfortable and full of dread, watch a movie maybe, or maybe you might also just laugh at it and get sad that you.
I did turn it off because I think I made it like 10 minutes in, and I was like, I hate this dad, and I turned it off, and I was like, I'll watch it another time. I'm not ready for this person.
Trigger warning: lame dad.
He really gives a good youth pastor vibe. All the reasons why those kind of people give me the creeps. Sorry if you are a youth pastor and you listen. If you listen and you're a youth pastor, I'm sure you're not like that because podcast. So, no offense to any youth pastors who listen. Anybody who doesn't listen, I cannot extend that to you. So, like, if your uncle's a youth pastor, he might be creepy. I'm sorry.
The only way to make him redeemable is you need to make him listen to this podcast.
Yeah,
oh God, we're gonna have people praying over our podcast.
You should make them listen to us so that I can exonerate them.
The movie ends with the kids using the medication that their mom gave them to drug the parents. and torture them and beat them with a baseball bat until I think only the mom escapes, right?
No, she doesn't.
They
both die. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they both die.
Fuck those bitches.
Yeah, and then the last scene is like the kids saying, "Oh, now we're gonna have some fun" with the video camera.
Yeah.
Well, and they don't even fucking, like, it's the weirdest end.
Cutting off their heads or something.
No, but we don't see it. It's like they're in trash bags wiggling around, and they just like have a regular fucking butter knife, I think, and a fork. And I'm like,
the ending, I was sad. I wanted. There's some decent, like, fucked up gore shit, like, during the movie, but it's all animal cruelty. I wanted human cruelty.
I mean, they could have just taken it full on camp. Might as well embrace it.
So I want a movie that's like that, with all the creepy suburban shit, but then also some violence.
And no children?
And no children in it. Only adults wwho are CGI'd to look like children.
God, stop.
Snapchat filter that makes people look like babies.
Yeah. Yes, like, just melded with the found footage movie.
They're like adult size but baby face.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
And puff to blow your house on down. Tell me that you've had enough of burning to the ground.
Should we talk about The Last Exorcism? There's that other movie, which, Ariel, you did like The Last Exorcism, right?
I really like The Last Exorcism, yeah.
Okay. I have many of the same editing complaints about The Last Exorcism as...
Same, but I like the movie, so I think that was the difference. And so the problem that I talked about this actually with Brian is, like, the end, it's if it just, again, if there was some conceit of how it was found or it was somehow edited, like, they need to have something where we know that.
Why are we watching this edited? Who edited this?
Exactly. Yeah.
So for those that haven't watched it, The Last Exorcism is about a pastor named Cotton Marcus,
Cotton Marcus, who for years was performing exorcisms, but doing it like in a deceitful way. Like, he had like all these props, he had demon sounds recorded on his phone, and he was using speakers. And the way that he kind of explained it was, well, I made them feel better. They thought they had a demon, and I made them believe that they were better, and I had a chance to feed my family. So basically the concept of the movie is he's doing one last exorcism. Yeah, one last job.
Yeah, one last job. And he's showing the camera person, like, kind of his tricks. But it turns out after he does this last exorcism, the girl that he did it on, Nell, actually needs to be exorcised because she is possessed by a very powerful demon.
Demons are real.
Yeah. So it kind of goes through that, but yeah, his name's Cotton Marcus.
Yeah, the best part of it is his name is Cotton.
Yeah.
Starts out as a documentary, like, they're making a documentary about this man because he's a fake pastor man who does fake exorcisms, and he doesn't even believe in God. And for some reason, he's telling a documentary all of this because I guess he's trying to blow up his life.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
You must wonder.
It's a self-drag.
Yeah, he's just gonna get exposed.
He exposed himself.
All those people are gonna, like, all this congregation are gonna beat him to death now. It doesn't matter. Because he went on one last job, and as everyone who's ever seen a cop movie knows, you don't ever do that. Cops don't really do jobs. They just are this close to retirement. Anyway, he was this close to retirement, and he took one last job, and we all know how that goes. Yeah, the documentary crew's, like, out there, and then I wrote down on my notes, like, why aren't they leaving?
Yeah.
I feel like, but that's a problem in, like, every horror movie. I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one.
I really liked it. I had fun with it. I've never been kind of super into found footage, I don't think, as much as you guys are, so I don't have those criticisms of, like, how is this found? How is it distributed? Who edited it? So I just kind of took it for just, I don't know, I wasn't looking at that, and I really had fun with it. I liked that they showed, you know, like, his crucifix with the smoke screen and stuff like that.
The conceit where he's a fake is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
As an exorcism movie, I think it's good. I think it's pretty good. I think as a found footage movie, I don't like it. I don't like the editing. For one thing, there is just rampant, like, non-diegetic music and, like, sounds in this. It makes me so mad.
Yeah.
There's, like, screaming violins, like, while they're, like, just filming, like, the girl through the window doing something, and I'm like, this is not, who edited this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
it
totally
was like, this
fair.
is the scary part. We have to put scary music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I honestly feel like that's, like, kind of a betrayal of the genre. We said you're expected to cheat a little bit, I think, unless you're just really hardcore. But yeah, that I feel like is cheating at, like, emotion, where, like, if you're doing found footage, you have to get by on, like, how scary the scene is on its own,
On
without, like, a
footage.
jump scare or music.
Right. That's fair. I didn't go into it thinking that, but now that you said, you know, like the music and the violins, yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally not.
But it is, to watch it not as a found footage movie, it is pretty scary.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of creepy possession shit in it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that proves even more for me. Yeah, my hating the editing in Home movie is really just because I didn't like the movie, you know, like I didn't like the plot. I didn't think it landed. And so for this, yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess it totally breaks the conceit. And it did actually on my second watch through, because this was my second time watching it.
Yeah, mine too. In fact, the first time I watched it, I think, like, I was like, I don't remember any of this, but, like, I think I just wasn't watching it as a found footage movie.
Okay, well, I think also maybe the secret with found footage is you're just supposed to watch it once. Yeah, as a character, he's compelling to me. They don't ham it up. Yeah, he's a charlatan. He's a charlatan preacher. He has that sense of theatrical importance, right? Where he does up everything like it's a event, like it's a theatrical thing.
Yeah, and he's a good actor too. You believe him as, like, a really charismatic person.
Yeah, and he also, like, I don't know, he plays it really sympathetically, which is weird because you would think you would hate this man.
You kind of do. I kind, like, there's, like, a point where, like, it kind of tips it. Is he okay to, like, no, he might be a garbage person. He could have like, just, if, you know what, if he wasn't a good person, that kind of explains, like, why they don't leave. If he was just a shithead, he would just take off at the first sign of trouble. But they had to make him a little sympathetic so he would stay.
Well, and there's that moment too where he actually learns about the father's alcoholism, and he has that moment with him where he takes him aside and he's still using, like, the chicanery. Oh, I have a word from the Lord for me right now. But he truly does use it for good. And so, like, that for me, like, was like, yeah, he's genuine. Like,
yeah, that's some A+ character development.
Yeah, it was a cool move, and it was an interesting choice. And then to have, like, this guy who, you know, for me was sympathetic, and then at the very end, you know, he does find his faith, like, in the weirdest way, like, through seeing fucking demonic shit, right? But
Yeah.
that's when he comes full circle and he comes back to, like, believing again, which is a kind of cool plot line.
Yeah, that's fair. That is, like, an amount of payoff.
Yeah, there's definitely some payoff.
Nothing like bringing your faith back, like seeing the spawn of Satan
ripped out of a child.
The practical effects in this were great. The makeup was really, really well done. I liked it a lot. There was, okay, I'm gonna say, like, when they go back and they find, like, the weird satanic writing on the wall, I was like, this is hokey. I wish they didn't have this satanic writing on the wall because it looks so dumb.
Yeah, it definitely borders on, it goes so heavy on the exorcism shit, like on like the exorcism, like, demonic genre shit, that sometimes it's a little bit funny.
Yeah, the writing got me this time, but yeah, it still held up. It still held up on a second viewing, but I do think there's something about, like, seeing, I mean, as long as you're not a filmmaker, because probably if you're a filmmaker, it probably annoys the shit out of you, I would imagine, to see all these edits. But for, like, a regular person, like, seeing a found footage film the first time, go off that feeling. You know, you don't need to watch it again to know, because if you do watch it again, it might seem a little less good.
Yeah, it's true. Like, you just have to, like, I feel like you have to, like, you know, buy the ticket, take the ride.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like there's a point, like, watching movies critically where, like, you don't really have to notice everything. Like, you're not a dummy if, like, you know, some storytelling like, method works on you and you know, kind of don't notice, like, a flaw because you were just taken with something else. Like, that's art doing its job. That doesn't mean, I don't know, I feel like you're not supposed to, like, necessarily pull back the curtain and get that invested in, like, the inner workings.
Yeah,
Like, if something sticks out and is distracting in how, that you notice it doesn't belong there, then that's a problem.
I think too, for me, the whole thing about found footage, and like, I'll watch them all because just the very idea that it's found footage, there's something like intriguing and mysterious about,
Yeah.
I love that. And the fake documentary shit, I'm such a sucker for too. So I think that's the other thing with Last Exorcism, is it gets me with the fake documentary conceit too. I love that.
I guess Wreck, which we talked about in our last episode, so we probably won't spend a lot of time on it now. Worth mentioning because it's one of the hallmarks of the genre.
It's so good.
Subgenre.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of documentary style. Honestly, that one just completely plays out like, yeah, this makes sense. At some point, all these people were trapped in this building. Everything went to shit, but like the camera's probably still there when they come into, in the aftermath.
Yeah.
So, yeah, somebody probably would edit that shit.
Yeah.
Maybe that person bought the tape like on the black market and then made this creepy horror movie out of it.
Yeah, right.
So that one and Blair Witch, I feel like, are both really just production-wise great examples of found footage. But mostly it's really, really hard to make a movie that way.
I know. To make it good, yeah, for sure.
To make a good movie.
Like
to make
fluidity?
it like all make sense. Like that it is a
Okay.
found footage
Cohesive.
movie. Cohesive.
Yeah, I think a lot too about, which I think we maybe talked about having this as its own episode too, but I think a lot about like the newer kind of like internet horror found footage too.
We should totally do. There's just so many splinters off of the subgenre.
This is like some Inception shit. Like we just go deeper into the subgenre, I love some of that new internet horror where it's like, oh, hi, I'm doing they're on their webcam. Like I saw that someone was watching like with their friends, probably through Zoom or something. They were watching Unfriended, and I was like, holy shit, that would be such a fun experience, like right now while we're all stuck at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know which movie
Yeah,
would be really fucked up to watch right now? Is Hush. The one where
Oh shit.
stuck at home by herself, like in the middle of the woods, and like there's this guy trying to get into her house.
Yeah.
And
I
she's
haven't
deaf
seen
or
that one.
something, I think.
Oh,
She is deaf, and it's on Netflix, fun fact.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
what is-
really?
there's a play that is
Yeah.
and I can't remember the name of it, but I've seen it before. She's like blind, and there's like a home invader.
Oh yeah, this one's similar, but yeah, she's deaf. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that would be a fucked up one to watch right now. Which like my mind immediately is like, yes, perfect. Like I want the fucked up shit to watch right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. Horror makes me feel better.
Yeah. It's like screaming into a pillow. Afterwards, you feel like this release of emotions, and you kind of feel a little bit lighter. Even though you just watched something really scary or horrible or bloody or gory, it still is this release of something pent up inside, I think.
Yeah, I know. Like we'll get into, I don't know what you call that, Skype horror.
Something like that.
Zoom horror is a little too new.
Yeah.
But
That's some Gen
like,
Z shit.
Yeah, exactly. Can't do that. I was born in 1990. Yeah, we'll get into like that stuff. Yeah, there's a whole like world of horror on the internet. Basically operates on a found footage as a concept.
You guys know about I think it was a horror movie that they made on Snapchat?
No.
It's called Sickhouse. It came out in 2016, a while ago.
Yeah.
And it was all done, like, I don't actually know how I really want to watch it though. I heard about it a while ago, and it, so when it was happening, that was another thing where people did think it was real. I just think that's the coolest thing, because that literally is not trying to recreate Blair Witch, because there are so many movies that try to recreate Blair Witch, but literally being like, well, how do we transplant that into like a modern context? Like, how do we truly freak people out in a way that they could be right now? So, and they took someone who was actually, I think, a YouTube personality. And so that person did have a following, and then used that person's Snapchat, like, so literally like, hey guys, I'm going on a trip. Like the whole thing was staged.
That's awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I know. We got to get our hands on that somehow. Like, I want to watch that so bad.
We got Unfriended, Selfie from Hell, #horror.
Wait, what the fuck? I need to watch that.
I would love to talk about Cam.
Oh,
Okay.
me too. I fucking love that movie, dude. Yes.
All right.
Cam was very good.
And it's female directed.
Mm-hmm.
So is Sickhouse, actually, and written.
Oh my gosh. Well, before we launch into another episode,
Yeah.
on the spot, we
Shit.
have to save it for the pod, but the other one.
The next one.
Yeah, that about does it for us. We have anything else we want to talk about? There's no like.
I think there's no better time than now to make your own found footage horror film.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Yeah, that can definitely be like a quarantine activity, and you could make the next quarantine.
And we kind of talked about that last episode with Pete and Anna, where, you know, take advantage that the streets are kind of desolate right now. Go get some footage and
Fuck yeah.
get together.
Make those movies.
We all need entertainment. We have
We'll
to
stay 6 feet away.
But we have been doing some Netflix parties right now because of the quarantine, and they've been really fun. They're mostly text-based, so you don't have to show your face if you want to join.
Yeah, you can just chat with us. We have a really good time. Everybody who comes to them so far has been just really fun and funny, and it's a really great time if you just kind of want some company and to watch a movie with some people who have really funny things to say during movies. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram in order to find out when we're doing those coming up. You can come and join us if you've got the Netflix party extension, and maybe in the future we'll figure out how to use something else so we don't just get trapped in Netflix. But you can also just follow us because we're fun and we post fun things on Facebook at Not Your Final Girl, at Instagram at MYFGpod, on Twitter at MYFGpod. You can also email us and tell us about all the found footage movies
Creepypasta
that you like the best, and send us your favorite creepypastas because I need them always.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you to Gabby Steiger for our beautiful artwork. Thank you to Claire Holland for her namesake, Not Your Final Girl, from her book of horror-themed poems. And thank you to Pat Spurlock for making our cool social media artwork and for just being a general cool technical support man. Thank you to Brian Demarest for other rad artwork. We have stickers. Hit us up if you want one. Take the advantage of no one being in the streets so you can put them all over the street. And thank you to Ariel for our song.
No problem.
Yeah.
Remember to
She did that for you. She did that song for
I
you.
sweat out a song just for you, listener.
and remember to stick around after the outro song to hear
Yeah, to hear Brian's take. That's it, I think. That is it. We did it. We talked about found footage.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm recording for posterity's sake. Your thoughts
My thoughts on this?
on the film we just watched, Home Movie.
It's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Tell me about some of your favorite moments.
My favorite moment is when the dad videotaped himself getting drunk in the dark by himself. That she could use later for her voiceover narration. I liked how nothing happened. I liked how they didn't do anything with the kids, like to develop them, to make them sinister. They just showed them being creeps the whole time. Mm-hmm. I liked at the end when they didn't show anything, like as far as a gruesome murder. Oh my god, post-production sound at Skywalker Sounds? Ooh. I liked it when the kid looked into the camera and then he bent the image with his evilness. It's why did this happen? Like, it didn't. This should not have been a found footage movie. It should have just been a regular schlocky, shitty horror movie. But they wanted to do a found footage for no reason. So why were they filming any of this? You don't film Thanksgiving dinner.
What do you say to Candace's allegation that you don't like this film because you are the dad priest?
I would really hate that. I mean, I'm not going to discount that, because if I did identify with that character, I would hate the movie because he's terrible. And I don't know if the actor's that bad, or if the writing's that bad, or the direction was that bad, but he was insufferable. But we both wanted both of those parents to die. Like, it didn't come fast enough.